Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are going over the best junglers for patch 11.11. The game of musical junglers continues as Riot tries to figure out how not to have one or two Omega Alpha junglers atop the tier list. And with the nerfs to Morgana and a few light touches to Shaco, Rumble, Elise and Elise, maybe we might actually reach that stage, or maybe it gets worse. So we will go over the best performing junglers overall for low MMR, for high MMR, that can give you the best opportunity to carry, win and climb. So as always, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing if you enjoy these videos. Don't forget there are full infographics of this available on my Patreon along with the coaching VODs, which includes a clash section by the way. And in the name of improvement, Zack wants to help through their in-game tips that are provided by their app that help you make better decisions in real time on any champion. There are also community-based live guides that you can download from high MMR players to use in-game to aid in your quest for raw LP gains. Zack has even worked with communities of champion mains on Discord and Reddit to help them publish their own live guides. For junglers, the Kane mains community has created a comprehensive guide with more than 200 in-game tips. Additionally, Zack has a live dashboard. It shows you item recommendations based on what Master Plus players buy on your champion in a similar game context. It can show you where to place wards on the minimap depending on the macro state of the game. It also displays players' items and levels so that you know if you are ahead or behind. Along with your classic performance trackers, draft advice, and your match history / stats on the out-of-game dashboard, click the link in the description below to download Zack to carry, improve, and climb. And now without further hesitation, the S tier page. And yes, we are starting off with Kha'zix. I'm sorry, it's his time once more. He never really went away, but when you have really super strong junglers that kind of overshadow, maybe they counter him just a little bit, they do everything a little better suited to the jungle meta. Yeah, but they've nerfed the Udiyas, the Hekrims, the Morganas, Rumble, and so on, and therefore he is left unpunished, free to roam, hunt whatever he likes, and of course, you can do the 5 camp into action now without being punished by a full farming jungler. You can afford to invade the junglers that are in the meta and obliterate them, thereby becoming super hyperfed. And basically, as long as you have your evolve patterns down for your own playstyle, you know exactly when to farm and when to gank, and you know what itemization you'd like to go, you should have no issue whatsoever with Kha'zix doing exactly what you want, when you want, to whichever jungle champion you want, and enjoying the free LP. And so next up we have Lee Sin, and you'll say, wait, hold up, didn't he get nerfed? And I'll say, yes, but that nerf is still a buff to what he used to be. And then you'll say, but it's still a nerf. And then I'll say it's still a buff over what it was, and he was already kind of strong. Because remember, that E was 10 seconds. They made it 8, now it's 9. Still stronger than it used to be, the champion's still overtuned in other aspects, and honestly, he's not gonna have much issue in the jungle or in lane doing what he needs to do in order to solo carry games. Which typically is using hypermobility, a lot of one-shot damage that he doesn't really need to have, but he has for some reason. He's got sustain, he's got wave clear, and of course his ultimate is one of the best disengage tools in the game. Either way, his performance metrics did suffer just a little bit, but overall he's performing mighty fine, and he might not be able to see his win rate data, but he knows it's good. Next up we have Shaco. Now you're thinking, well again, he was nerfed. Yeah, they nerfed AP Shaco. I mean, I don't really face that often, to be honest with you. Most of the time it's some kind of AD variant. Most of the Shaco one-tricks that you see on EOS at the very least, and I've done videos on this channel as well as the gameplay channel, are all doing AD builds, using whatever the hell mythic they feel like it because he really can play them all. And yes, the AP ratio nerf did affect him in the most minuscule of ways, but it's really not enough for a champion that can build whatever mythic he wants. Hell, you can rush Essence Reaver first, and he totally corrupts the way laners have to play just to account for the possibility that he might show up. The question mark that he brings about where he is even in the early game is just very, very difficult to handle when his numbers are a bit too high, which they are because you can snowball, you can cheese, you can make a laner's life miserable. Yeah, there are wards to counter it, which I've done as well when I'm playing support, but there's only so much you can do after that. Either way, on the list of greatly designed champions, we have Fiddlesticks. Avoiding any weird nerfs, he just carries on sucking on. No real concerns about the jungle changes. You wanna know why? Because honestly, Fiddle kinda likes rinse clearing and then using his ultimate, but if there's a longer downtime between those sequences occurring, he really doesn't mind using his effigies, waiting behind walls, waiting for that perfect moment to launch over a wall, yeet your soul from your body, your heart goes into your mouth, then he waddles on away with whatever legs he has and he carries on farming. And he can do this throughout the game. The champion is extremely strong. Solo objective control, map pressure, he provides that question mark that we talked about with Shaco, except with a much more tangible understanding of what he wants to do and where he's going to be. Great champion design, exquisite rework, and one of the best junglers in the game. Next up we have Shin Xiao, and you're seeing him a lot in your streams, in your high elo VODs, and almost throughout every single MMR range. Yes, he runs Hail of Blades, and yes, it was nerfed, but that's really more of a nerf for laning Hail of Blades. Junglers don't really require that uptime nearly as much. You just need it for that burst gank and you're done. He has very strong build paths in the Eclipse as well as the Shield Bow. The W range and gap close on that has just made him such a versatile champion in terms of how far you can actually run away from him, which in this day and age of high dash ability, high movement speed champions, an older champion always needs a little bit more of a window to gap close and stick to targets, and they gave that to him, and really he's using it extremely well. Make sure your pathing is very aggressive, make sure you're using the champion to snowball, to be on the map, hit the laners, invade the enemy jungler. Use your camps as a fallback and as a reward. Don't decide, you know what, I'm gonna farm this and then gank. You all saw what happens in the tempo video when you do that. Right, next up is Elise. Yes, you know, I dropped her a few spots just because I feel they're better junglers suited to what we want to accomplish in the jungle, how we want to farm, how we want to gank and play around objectives. And that is aided by the fact that they just gave her a little bit of a nerf as well. It's not going to change too much, mind you. She's still looking to do both buffs and Grom into gank. She's still high pressure. She still wants to dive. She still wants to snowball. I just firmly believe from the games I've been playing and the data I'm seeing that there are better junglers that can do this well, match up to her well. And then of course there are other solutions to the jungle meta that just do things Elise cannot. And one of those champions is Zack. It wasn't long ago he received changes of his own 11.8. He got damage buffed to his W. Coincidentally, they buffed the damage to monsters on the Sunfire, which means now not only do you farm quicker and do more damage to the camps so you can farm fast, you also have the longest range ganks in the game. Absolutely hilarious when you watch an immobile, flashless target on the bottom lane and you just change CC them for 18 years and get a double kill. And as your body leaks, you pick up the gooey pieces and you heal. And if you die, you don't really die. The very unnatural and very clearly lab-created lockdown CC that he has from his kit, along with that damage, along with the disruption, along with the fact that he can gank regardless of vision, means that for solo queue, he is definitely underrated and one of the best you can use if you enjoy the tank life. Next up, we have Warwick, and he's been climbing steadily over the last couple of patches as we lost track of the full farming AFK meta, which obviously was really bad for him. Every other jungler's coming out at 315, and by the time Warwick does Raptors and Krugs, you know, the game's finished. But now, not only are 4 to 5 camp variants coming back in fashion, we also have the 3 camps. He can get straight on the map before anyone else. He can go fisting with almost any other jungler, and if you can double scuttle and get your tier 2 Gromp and tier 2 Wolves on your first rotation, you are fully ready to take control of the objectives as well as gank lanes and make the enemy jungler completely fall behind on tempo. And now we swap to the A tier page, and first up we have Evelyn, the same as the last patch. You know, I honestly think she's in a really good spot. You've seen people tweet things like, if she's on the enemy team, just dodge, because if she's on the enemy team, your lane is going to feed her and then you can do nothing about it. If you want to invade to suppress her, your lane is one of prior anyway. And that kind of summarizes why she's so strong. She's just literally everywhere and anywhere at any given moment once she hits 6. Yeah, she can thrive in a farming meta where you just get yourself infused with experience, but because of the fact that the camp spawns have increased and she has more time now to kind of wait around with the camera for those windows, you're looking at Evelyn's lowering that CS a minute, but really getting fed a lot more. Obviously in higher elos, they're sequencing perfectly as well, and you're kind of stitching it all together. The point is, the damage is unholy, it's one of the best assassins in the game, and she's a lot of fun. Right up until she kills you, that is. And now you have to think if it was worth it and if there are worse ways to die. Next up we have Volleyball, still in a very good spot. Honestly, in some tier lists you're putting him S tier. I main the champion, so obviously I think he's strong. You would have seen a lot of clips in the recent videos as well. And while I do enjoy the Kha'zix matchups, and while I do enjoy invading and destroying Kanes and Evelyns, at certain points, the Kane and Evelyn will have no issue dispensing with you and closing games out. That is, of course, if he chooses to go Rast. Overall, he will have accessibility issues later in the game. The subsequent nerfs to all his itemization has been a bit tragic. As I mentioned in the tempo video as well as the S+ jungler video, I do enjoy the Divine Sundra build path. That can scale you into the late game a little better, but you are obviously more squishy. So bear in mind, Volleyball is extremely strong, but he does have a few weaknesses. Overall, in a very nice spot. The weird one is Diana. She is in this really powerful position, but her win rate just doesn't show it. And I honestly think maybe it's just because people think, hey, she has no CC until 6. I'm gonna farm. Instead of just being the skirmisher demon that she is, instead of just getting in people's faces, impacting lanes. Look on the gameplay channel, we just did a tempo-based Diana video. She completely took over, and if you play Diana like that, you will have no issue carrying every single game with her. The champion kit is strong, you have burst, you have fighter, you can go Nashes, you can go rocket belt, you have decisions available to you that not only allow you to beat up enemy champions, but you can beat up towers and objectives. Go forth and tell them about the good news of the moon. Next up we have Kane, blue, red, shadow assassin, Rast, your decision, your life, choose your own adventure. The increased skirmishing from this new jungle meta has really been great for those Kanes who struggle to balance farming with ganking because now you have no choice, and you are able to infuse yourselves with orbs more frequently. No one's complaining. Except of course the enemy squishies when Shadow Assassin Kane one-shots them, or tanks when they think, hey look, I'm a tank, you can't touch me, and then Raz just says,
challenge accepted.
Rolling around next is of course Nunu and Willem. And if you caught my chat with Nice, you know we were talking about what if catch-up experience was put in a bad way. You would just have Nunu with 2 or 3 CS running around the rivers, not farming whatsoever. But fortunately, catch-up experience was put in a very subtle way, and so it's not really impacting us at all. Nunu and Willem are still one of the best tanks in the game. You have total objective control with these smite changes along with consume, and as you are not being innately outfarmed and outscaled by rinse clearers, Nunu is in a very solid position. Nocturne's kinda like Kane in that way, they're sort of semi-analogs to each other. Really, you think, hey, this is a farmer. Yes, but it's a champion that also loves to go fighting. If you have lethal tempo, you can really handle yourself in most matchups. You have the spell shield, and you just want to get 6 fast, and then use that ult on repeat on the laners whose lives you want to annoy. And while split pushing isn't really, you know, a dominant strategy at the moment, you still have the ability to force that pressure in a side lane and rotate very quickly with the semi-global. Kindred is down in this spot, but in the right hands, Kindred is an S-tier jungler. They just have a completely different way of seeing the game, you know, along with implementing the mark, which really needs to be reworked. Kindred really rewards great pathing, great matchup knowledge, and of course, using those wall hops to really get into the weird places on the map. You do have build versatility and choice at your fingertips. See the gameplay channel for multiple scenarios you can find yourself in with Kindred if you simply want to take over and close games. And finally, I was thinking about putting Udio just because, you know, even though he's just turbo useless, he runs around being really irritating, he still farms fast, just runs at people, then runs away. I don't know, the champion just tilts me to unholy levels. Rack size win rate has gone up just a little bit, and when you have things like Kha'zix and when you have things like Evelyn, rack size Tremor Sense can provide a certain utility. Now the matchup with Kha'zix is very snowball reliant. If you get ahead, you can handle yourself to a degree. But with the focus on ganking, returning, and you know the likes of Morgana going away a little bit, Rek'Sai is enjoying a little bit better of a time. And now onto the low elo page. Very briefly, we start off with Shako just because the cheese factor, and you know if high elo players get caught out by this irritating champion, then your low elo enemies, you can do the same to them. Diana gives you split pushing and just total game control. Master Yi is Master Yi. Zack, Volleyball, Nocturne, Warwick, Shin, they all provide you everything you need in the low elo in terms of tankiness, survivability, fighting, a lot of high pressure, objective control, and if you do want that tank for your team comp because everyone's complaining in champion select, you have Zack who does damage and also has at least over 1000 CCs. Finally, the high elo page, as always with this lately, I'm mentioning play rate, win rate, ban rate, these are all factors. It's very difficult to pinpoint which is exactly the strongest jungler. And while Morgana is doing decently well here still, Rumble nerf didn't really affect him in the win rate department whatsoever. As a general accessibility jungler, yeah, he's terrible now. I don't recommend you guys picking him up unless you're smurfing or high elo. Otherwise, things like Nidalee, Kindred, Elise, and Kha'zix, they really are dominating at the moment. There are a few other choices of things you can throw in. You always have the Kanes, the Fiddles, the Rengars. We also have the return of Graves just a little bit. The buff wasn't enough to bring him into the mass population, but at least in high elo, it's seeing a little bit more action, although it's not really performing well at all. And remember, a lot of the meta, as you're seeing in this whole video, as we go from video to video, you're seeing champions get nerfed but maintain their win rate. You're seeing champions that were actually really bad just suddenly being very good. A lot of the meta is dictated by matchups. When something is played a lot, other champions that might just simply be bad in a vacuum but match up well will tend to have inflated statistics that make them seem stronger than they are. So keep all of this in mind. I hope you're able to enjoy and learn something from this video to see the jungle meta changing once again. I'm sure Riot will tinker around next patch also. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure your beards are ranked among the best. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.